Welcome to the Growing Relationships podcast. I'm your co-host Leah, somatic feminine leadership coach and trauma reprocessing facilitator.
And my name is Frederick. I work with leadership development. I'm also the founder of the men's group Transformation Within.
And in these conversations, we will explore how to make sense of yourself and your partner in the dance of romantic relationships.
Hello, Leah. Good to see you again. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. I had a little bit of a cold, but I feel so much better today. And I'm so excited to have these conversations this year with you
In Spain and having a cold.
in
I mean,
Spain. So much sun.
it's bloody cold here, which is fantastic for the cold plunges. I had a dip yesterday morning. We had to break the ice to get in. It was wonderful.
Actually, I went to a retreat over the New Year's time, and we had a cold plunge as well in 5 degrees water, which was, oh, wow. It's just amazing. It reset my whole system.
Like a rebirth.
What's the topic they want to talk about today?
Yes, we had a question from one of our listeners. And the question was, how do I get my partner to do the work?
Oh,
That's a
juicy.
big,
Yeah. Mm.
and it's also a question I have been wrestling with a lot in my relationship. So
Mm.
I have some thoughts, feelings, and experiences related to this. But I was
Same.
thinking, shall we say a few words about what did we mean by when we say the work?
For me, the work means that someone is willing to go the path with me. They reflect, they're introspective, they're willing to look inside, they are committed to this thing to work between us. That's work for me.
I would take it prior to the relationship. For me, doing the work is to embark on the inner journey. Doing the work is to open up to the fact that I may not fully understand myself. I may go on autopilot. I may not be conscious in my actions and decisions. I may have sides of myself that flare up. I don't know where it comes from. And then start befriending all the aspects of who you are and then doing the work to it.
It sounds like this is a prerequisite for what I just said. Mm.
So, do you have any thoughts? How do you get your partner to do the work?
I also have experience
Yeah,
in
great. Tell us.
wanting so bad my partner to do the work with me, and it fired back. I can say it fired back because of
No.
a few reasons. First, when you want the other one to do the work, it's what I found is a form of controlling, because I'm not satisfied in a way in the relationship, which I was not in the relationship with one of my ex-partners. And we are already 2 years in the relationship. And it was hard for me to accept the level of his self-growth, so to say. The level of commitment for him was not the level of my commitment to self-growth. For him, it was enough just to meditate. And I wanted more. I wanted to go deeper and thrive, not just to survive. And he would say, why do you want to work all the time on this relationship? You don't need to fix it. And I didn't see it as fixing. I saw it as growth together, you know? And obviously, because we were not aligned on this, and I had to have this experience with him to understand that actually you need to be aligned on this.
And also,
Back. It didn't work out.
but I think we have to give him some credit in the comment of why do you want to work on this relationship? Well, can we just be? There is the essence of truth in his statement.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's a form of control.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to let loose. Yeah, to let loose control and If there's a fear, for me, for example, the fear was that if I lose grip on this, it will fall apart. But actually, when I did it, it fell apart because it was not true, really. It was not an aligned partnership.
And
My conclusion was that you don't need to be afraid to speak up as long as this is true for you. And if this whole relationship, it can be even marriage, I imagine. If it's not based on truth, like deep truth and alignment, it will fall apart anyways.
two reflections there. First is, how do you distinguish? Because telling somebody you need to do the work, to what degree is there projection in that? Because it's also sort of an easy way out of having to look inside.
Exactly.
It's a very difficult or sort of tricky balance between requesting somebody to step up to their best self
Mhm.
versus using it as a way of avoiding to face my own deep truth.
Exactly. As a way to avoid taking responsibility for your own stuff.
And what did you say before I interjected? There was another thought coming.
About being in a relationship, not needing to fix it all the time and work on it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you said this as well. You said that I can imagine also in a marriage, if it's not based on deep truth.
The relationship, not man, not the
No, no.
madness. The relationship.
So if a relationship is not based on deep truth, you arrive at deep truth relationship. You don't start there.
Potentially.
Most people start with a superficial attraction. And then as we get to know each other, we figure out that, okay, we have similar interests, we have similar values. We have roughly the same idea about what the future look like. And then we commit based on this without really having dug deep into who we really are. So I think that's the first challenge in a relationship. After sort of the honeymoon period of first couple of years, let's say, when you really start rubbing against each other, you can notice that there are things in your partner that is triggering you deeply. That's when you start to open the door towards exploring the real truth of different relationships.
And ideally, of course, in an ideal scenario, people would be so conscious and aware in the beginning phases of the dating or relationship where they would be so aware of what are my values. Because growth, for example, is one of the values. Not everyone has this value to grow. Many people are okay where they are, and that's okay too. But then we are misaligned. We're not compatible.
There are so many nuances to growth. And I agree, not everybody wants to grow, but I think that's associated with outer growth. I think everybody has a deep desire, inner growth. You don't realize it in your first 30 something years. Only when you have matured enough to start questioning what you brought with you from upbringing, your socialization process and conditioning process, you start to wake up and wonder, what am I really doing here? And then that ignites that little fire of looking inward. And for some people, it doesn't come much later in life. When you say in an ideal world, people would be conscious enough to start a relationship based on truth. That means there wouldn't be any relationships before the age of 40 for anybody, right?
In my case,
Yeah,
It's
you are very special.
people ask me why I'm still single, and I'm like, either I don't feel a soul vibration with the men that I meet, or they're not willing to go the path with me. They're not willing to do the work. Simple.
So going back to the question from our listener, how do you get your partner to do the work? When I was reflecting on the question, the first answer that came to me was, you can't. The desire to do the work must come from the inside. What you can do, help them discover their own entry door through leading by example.
Yes, I totally agree. We need to be, if we want our partners to do the work and to follow us, we need to be the embodied expression of our growth. And this potentially will evoke in the other one what we need. If we talk about polarity, especially, we know that as women, for example, the more I will be in my body and lead with my heart, lead with my womb and with my truth, the more the man in front of me will wake up to his masculine, will rise into his masculine and telling him anything. And I think this is one way, like the most potent way for me to do it in a smooth way. And it requires deep devotion for your own practice first. It requires patience, but also it requires sobriety and to be willing to walk away. In half a year, let's say, I would set a container for myself for the relationship. And I would tell myself, okay, in this 6 months, I'm going to be the most embodied human being, feminine in my case. And if this doesn't evoke in him anything, any change that my heart craves from him, then I have the answer. Sounds harsh, but I think that's very true.
If the masculine steps up,
Yeah.
the leadership position, and we've discussed in previous episodes what we mean by leadership position, then that creates space for the feminine to relax. And hopefully that will then evoke a desire to start exploring.
Yeah.
What are the pitfalls here? We've been together for 22 years. The first challenges started to come after 5 or so. And what I found was that it's very tricky to make requests or sort of directly suggest work needs to be done by the other if you are in an intimate relationship, because it's so intertwined. And also because you're in an intimate relationship, all the trigger points come out. So like you started the conversation with, most of the time it backfires.
Because
And
nobody wants to be
Told.
corrected or told or fixed in any ways. Yeah, everyone wants deep down wants to be accepted as they are.
no, and that's the thing. In telling somebody that they need to step up, they need to do the work, they need to, there is even doesn't matter how softly you say it, there is an insinuation. You're broken.
Well, it can be, but it can also be a projection from the other side. So I truly believe if you have, because you need to have this conversation before even you consider leaving, right? So you need to have this conversation like, hey, we need to talk. I need you to step up for yourself. And it can be soft, but it can come from this energetically, from this space of either neediness or complaining or blaming. So there's a fine line.
Let me correct myself. I didn't mean that there is an insinuation. It's easy to interpret it as an insinuation.
I truly believe when you express this is a need, right? In a relationship, you need two people to make it work. And whoever says that the relationships are like river, they just need to flow. You don't need to put effort into it. I just don't believe it. A thriving relationship needs constant attention, introspection, retrospective, and intention.
People who say should just flow like a river and have not been in a long enough relationship to experience what it's like.
Yeah, I know such people. You chose what you chose at the beginning. Maybe there was chemistry, there was something else that bonded you. And then at some point, all these things come up. If the person is now willing to, again, go the path with you, say, okay, I want this thing to work. I want to work. And I'll do whatever it takes on my side, beyond my ego, for this to work. If you don't have that, then what are you even doing? So I really liked what you said about wanting your partner to do the work is a way of us not to take or avoid responsibility for our own shortcomings. And I'm curious, in what way are we doing it?
I made those requests out of feeling lost because, I'm deeply flawed still. At the same time, until I'm perfect, we're all on a journey. The challenge here is that if we imagine the journey as a ladder pointing straight up into the sky, when you stand on one rung of the ladder, you can look out over the landscape. So based on my view there, I would evaluate and describe the relationship. And based on understanding of myself, my partner, and the world, that rung, I would guess how to fix it. Not realizing, had I been 2 rungs up, I would have made a completely different interpretation. So then, by doing my own work, climbing the ladder, so to speak, I slowly started to change my perspective. And the result of it was not change from my partner. And to be honest, many of those requests were projections. So I could avoid doing more work. But then as I did my own work, slowly matured, I started to realize that it's for me to role model the relationship I want to have. Be the best person I can be in order to create space for her to feel safe. When she feels safe, she will have capacity to look inside and see what is bubbling up. What is she willing to look into?
I really like what you say. And also having compassion for their journey as well, and understanding that they might not be ready now, not in 5 years, not in 10 years. And that's their journey.
What has made my wife and I stay together over these 22 years, despite everything life have thrown at us, is that both of us have all the time known that there's a deep love for each other as a foundation. But then in the sort of commotion of everyday life, there's obviously been many periods where we were fighting, periods of not talking to each other, periods of not being connected, etc. But every time we had a situation, both of us always concluded that we have this strong foundation of love. We just have to make it work.
Yeah, this is the commitment that I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I stay and make it work?
One of my favorite lines here: a lifelong relationship is not a lifelong feeling of love. It's a lifelong commitment. And then you work on creating the feeling of love as often as.
So how does taking responsibility actually look like? I can imagine something like role modeling or leading with that, taking responsibility once, owning what you could have done better, maybe twice, 3 times, until the other person sees, oh, this is what is possible as well. It feels so good when the other one does this. So hopefully they would step into that kind of work as well, unknowingly.
In my case, I intellectually got the idea that I need to step up and lead more, create the container, bring clarity to relationship, bring direction to relationship, etc., and create that safe space for her. Intellectually, I got it and I had an ambition to do it, but I wasn't mature enough to actually do it. So I had to spend time really going inward, do the work, and focus on maturing my masculine energy. I could hold her. And
Yeah.
only when I started doing this type of deep work, I developed the capacity to step up and lead. And for those who haven't been listening to previous episodes, the essence of the masculine energy is to hold what is without getting emotional. That was something I had to work with. When she had one of her emotional storms, I tended to crumble. And that creates unsafety for the feminine. And
Right.
that sort of puts the relationship back again.
Yeah, so we are talking from the perspective of someone who takes lead in a relationship, because ideally they would both care about each other's nervous system, but also about their own nervous system first. I was thinking about leading. You can lead emotionally, but you can also lead when you have a conflict, set the container, yeah, and say, hey, let's take a half an hour and have a conversation here, an exchange. Have a retrospective at the end of the week and see what didn't work well, what might need improvement in our communication or in our household. And it's beautiful when this container is set by someone, especially by men. Maybe because I'm a feminine being, but I don't see it much nowadays. Even when I'm dating, men are sort of floating around. Their awareness is everywhere, not grounded, present, and conscious enough to say, hey, here is something happening. Let's sort it out. Let's bring clarity. So that's the type of leadership that I really appreciate in men.
Yeah, I think we talk about the same type of leadership. Again, we say masculine, we don't mean men. We say feminine, we don't mean women. We talk about the energies of masculine and feminine. Both of us have all. So when I say for the masculine step up and lead, realizing that something here needs to be done, and then create that container so that we together can feel safe. And then both of us can drop into the feminine and have that dialogue that you described, the nurturing, the caring, etc. Dialogue must be had within a container that feels safe. So we can drop down into the mature feminine.
Yeah.
That container, it becomes sort of immature feminine, where we just have expression of emotion. It's not the nurturing conscious dialogue.
Right. You have a storm together.
Have a double storm.
Yes. And ideally, I would say you can interchange, like one of you is the masculine holding and the other one is a feminine expressing, and then you can change. The other one is, okay, I'm here. I hear you. I'm grounded. I hold it. I don't react and just, ground it. And then you can interchange within this container.
Now that I have stepped up to lead, matured my masculine energy, and my wife started dropping down in her feminine, now it's much easier us to reverse roles when needed. So when I feel down, sad, lost, and feel that I need to drop into the feminine, I can ask her to help me hold the container. And she does that much more willingly now because she knows that I'm strong enough to step up and lead the relationship again.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. You don't need to be always in feminine or in masculine. We're allowed to be in both.
Us feel
Element.
both. So it's the dance between the two the partners and the dance of polarity that's important.
Mm. I think the most powerful skill is to be able to have this agility and to pull out one or the other whenever needed and consciously with intention instead of just being a product of, oh, God knows what happens here.
A lot of the work I do with the men is about acknowledging the two energies and then maturing them. Because the type of masculinity we see in films and social media, etc., is a very immature type of masculinity, which also rejects the notion of the feminine energy in men.
Yeah.
And with
Right.
that attitude towards it, you cannot heal as an individual and you cannot fully step into a relationship. But a lot of the work we do is about maturing the masculine and then recognizing, befriending, and accepting the feminine energy within it.
Yeah. And the work that I do with my females, it's mostly women. So I'd say feminine coaches are for them to drop into their bodies and find that space where they can invite the masculine in without criticizing, without blaming, just to be an invitation and create the space for him to rise into his masculine without tension, without contraction, inside and outside.
I feel that we are not really answering the question. How do you get your partner to do the work? And we kind of agreed that you can't get them to do the work. You can only invite them to the work through role model. But is there something we can do to sort of initiate their reflections on, this is interesting, awaken the curiosity?
If you ask me, I think that we should be really mindful and aware of the intention underneath. Do I want to change him or her? Because then I have a personal agenda. And whatever I would do, it's manipulation. Like if I would leave a book somewhere accidentally, or I'm watching a video and she's there or he's there, and like, oh, I want books. It is not working because underneath there is this neediness and grasping energy of I need you to change. So first, get clarity inside. Why do you need to change this relationship? What I tried didn't really work well because I didn't have time since I get into this work and then we broke up with this guy that I was longer in a relationship and he was not really willing to do the work, so to say. I would tell him my experience, my growth and transformational experience in the container with the teacher that I was. It's like I did this meditation with him or this embodiment practice and it really changed my energy. I feel more grounded. I feel more whatever was alive for me. And he would be more curious. Oh, tell me more. But I found that there's like between curiosity and him taking steps towards this was huge. He even said once, yeah, send me the link. I sent him the link, but nothing happened afterwards. So we should be really aware not to be manipulating the other one.
No, and also, we men are taught to just listen to our women and let them speak and be interested. And sometimes, of course, we generally are, but it can also be out of politeness. Oh, interesting. Tell me more. Send me the link. What came to me as a thought.
He was British. Yeah, he's British. So British are all. Yeah.
Now, what came to me was positive reinforcement. We men are simple creatures in some ways, just like you would have positive reinforcement to train a dog. You can use the same technique on us men. And I guess it used vice versa as well. So when your partner is doing something that you really appreciate, positively reinforce it. Oh, I love it when you do like this, or oh, it makes me feel so good. And, be very generous with your appreciation.
We women find so many times hard to drop into that space of appreciation. I don't know actually why. For us women, it's so much easier sometimes to go into the complaining and seeing what's not working than seeing what is flowing and appreciating that. It's just a habit, a bad habit.
At the root of masculinity is to serve. If we can get recognition and acknowledgement for serving, then we will double down on whatever it was we did. So it's a simple way to get us to move, but use it with care.
Yeah, it's again like, how do you appreciate the man over and over when he doesn't do the things you want him to do? Yeah.
If there's no actions that warrants appreciation, then it has to go to the next step, which is requests. I would love it if you.
And then he says, yes, yes, of course, my love. And nothing happens.
Then you're sliding to a much tougher conversation.
Yes, that's true. We so many times avoid just to have this tough conversation with our partners or with the other one because it's uncomfortable. But we need to be sober so that we can set them free, set ourselves free to live the life that we want to live. Many people want to live a life, like life without going deep, without doing this work, because this work requires energy. It requires a lot of time, and it's so much easier to be love and light and not having to look inside.
In summary, the best way to get your partner to do the work is that you focus on doing your own work. And then through leading by example, may evoke something in your partner that is pulling them towards their work. I want to be clear here. Their work is their work. It's not that they have to do the type of work you have done. We all have our own individual journey.
That's another aspect, yes. Their soul path is their soul path. Maybe their soul didn't decide yet that they are ready to go this path. And maybe they have their own path to go, their own work to do. We need to take out our personal agenda from them.
The work will come to us when we're ready.
Amen.
Amen. I think we can wrap this episode up.
I would like to invite our listeners to drop in comment how they find our conversations, because it keeps us going. Yeah. And we will also love to know if you have any topics that we can explore. I would love to hear from you all.
And if you've tried anything of the stuff we talked about across these episodes, we would love to learn how it played out.
And if there's any of you who feels drawn to this work, they would like to deepen their capacity, feminine or masculine capacity in themselves, so they can make their relationship thrive, please check our work, check our website, which is in the description. We are here for you.
Great. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you too, Fred.